Welcome to Singled Out, your ninth best gaming podcast. Please stand by.
But your options are as follows, really. Either you could help contribute to Singled Out by signing up to their Patreon and getting a whole bunch of additional content, not for free, but for the money that you use. That's how commerce works. Or you can listen to other 3-hour-long podcasts made by foreigners, and who wants that? Singled Out. That'll do.
We're recording right now, so let's start this. So, welcome to episode 100. Oh, screw up already. That's a good start. Welcome to 100. Andrew. Welcome to episode 139 of Singled Out. I'm Andrew. Today I have on the podcast my arch nemesis, Mike Klein.
Hello.
Hello. And today we are going to do the Engineers in some minutes. More than 30. Less than 60, probably. Michael's on the podcast because apparently he's good at Guild Ball, unlike myself. So he's going to tell us all about the Engineers team, how they play, and all that jazz. Michael, Engineers. Let's start from the top then about Engineers. So, what's their sort of game plan in going into a match? Are they more takeout based? Are they more goal based? Are they a bit of both? What do they do?
Yeah. So, hey, the one question I kind of anticipated. Engineer. I was trying to figure out. No, this is interesting. Doing a bit of game design separately from this, it's been trying to figure out what guilds actually. Like what they do, what their identity is, and engineers certainly have a bunch of them. They have we're accurate at passing, we're tough kinda. We like to knock down and push models around. We do like to score goals, and we have a lot of ball control and ways to interact with the ball. So yeah, they have a bunch of different identities. I think generally though, they are definitely more of a goal scoring team. I think 2-2 is probably 2 goals, 2 takeouts is probably a common play style for them that obviously will potentially change a bit depending on the captain and the players that you're playing. But yeah, I think they are looking to use their durability to threaten the ball, score goals, and then get takeouts on models that are overextended. Basically.
Yeah, they have damage, but often a bit of a freaky relationship between damage and momentum, don't they? It's not always clear cut as some teams.
I think their players have a very unique playbook, which is basically almost always. There are some exceptions. They have mostly non-momentous, usually about 1 momentous damage result somewhere in the middle. of their playbook, but other than that, they do this like 1-2-3 or 1-2-3-4 along their playbook of non-momentous damage, which is uh, just interesting. But yeah, so definitely not like Masons, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of good kick stats, a lot of sort of 4-6 kicks, aren't they? So a lot of accurate sort of shortish range passes, and a few 4-8s as well in there as well with like velocity and stuff. So I guess we'll go into the captains because they obviously will determine the play style of your team. So starting with the OG, Ballista.
Oh, Ballista, the captain for people with class.
I think it's great. I played him a little bit in season, I think 3, and he's great fun. He's brilliant.
Yeah, no, Ballista's good. I think Ballista is a captain I think everybody likes to play because he has a big crossbow bolt and he shoots people with it, and that's fun.
In football match.
Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, totally. And he's the good guy. That's the funny part of all this. Like, he's the guy who's like shooting you with a crossbow, and they're like, hey, he's cool. He's like looking out for everybody. Yeah, no, I think he is a very difficult captain to play well. Because his play style is a lot of like keeping you at arm's length for a time, and then kind of setting up a space in the field where if people, like people come in, they start taking damage. They come into range for your other characters to knock them down, to do like shoot them and do things. I don't think you can just sit back and shoot with Ballista's team forever. His abilities help you with that, right? And the rest of the teams do as well. But I don't think you do enough if you just try to stay out of threat range and shoot people, every turn. I think you have to be ready for them to come in, and then you have to either start scoring goals or killing models.
Yeah, it's not like some war games. You can't go gun line forever, can you? Because that's not going to win you the game. You can't shoot someone off the table in Guild Ball, not really.
No, yeah, you certainly cannot unless they're really
like stand still, you shoot them for a while.
yeah, it's gonna take you a long time.
Yeah.
Hope you're not on clock.
So allocation wise, do you tend to give a full clip, or do you kind of alternate with your sort of game strategy? What you do with them?
I think it very much changes turn to turn. I think 6 on Ballista can be a trap. It can be needed, right? So a lot of people I find when they're playing Ballista will put just like 1 or 2 off in either direction from what they needed, right? So on turn 1, you're looking, I think, at a minimum to have the ability to, I guess it depends if you're kicking or receiving a little bit, but to deadbolt, probably to second wind out of range, and ideally to minefield as well if that's relevant, right, for your team, right? So that's 4 there, and you might need to sprint. So you're looking at like around 4 or 5, but obviously that can change if minefield's not going to be that useful because the enemy team's likely not going to come towards you turn 1, then maybe it's 1 less, right? And then after that, I think it really depends. 6 on Ballista is necessary if you're trying to kill a model that's like come in and been knocked down and set up for him to kill. And he doesn't really threaten to kill a lot of miles without that 6 influence. But if you have 6 influence and you deadbolt and minefield and second wind him, then you wasted some influence. So
I guess you can deadbolt someone and then go into someone and then try to get sort of 4 more swings and try to do something.
Yeah, you absolutely can do that. But again, he doesn't really. You have to deadbolt that player then go in or have someone already knocked down because his playbook is right at the mathematical point where the 2 damage and double push that he needs to get to do a bunch of damage is very very unrealistic for consistently.
3 hits on type 6. You ain't going to get it unless you actually have to put it first, right?
Yeah, or you'll get it on a knockdown model.
Yeah.
Most of the time, but not. He needs it every time if he's going to do the 12, 14 damage, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you say he's more of a kicker or a receiver, or kind of good all-rounder?
I think he probably is a bit more of a kicker. I'm sorry, a receiver, because we have a very strong kicking captain that we'll talk about. Having the ball and being able to deny momentum while knocking people down can be pretty good for a turn one. And I think he wants to have the ball to force the opponent in to kind of. I think Ballista's game plan very much for his team is to start start the fighting, weaken up some models, go have one of the engineers score goals, and start trading off goals while killing the models that are weakened that have come in to try to interact. So
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
that for receiving.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I quite like Breach as well. It's quite good just to throw out a 10-inch kick sometimes. It's quite handy,
Mm-hmm.
especially it's
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Breach is good. I definitely the amount of times like back in the day when I was playing Ballista where I'd be going and being like, all right, it's all on this Breach. It's all whether and it's all this activation was either really good or really bad depending on if I score a goal from 10 inches away right here. But yeah, that's any goal scoring team.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, going on to Pinvice then. I mean, I always like Pinvice because she's got fast and she can do linked, which for me is two glorious things. I played her a little bit because she felt a bit like Honor to me, even though she's not like Honor at all. But she felt a bit like that sort of play style. So I mean, she's certainly changed a bit over the years here and there. So how about Pinvice then?
Yeah, Pinvice is interesting. Pinvice, I think, actually, funny enough, was the first captain I played in season 2. Literally, the first captain I played in season 2, which she was very different back then.
She was, yeah, very much so.
The old joys of getting like a 50-inch goal threat because of the way the old what's it called? Well-oiled machine worked was really fun, but this one's probably better. Yeah, Pinvice is is a great captain to have the ball on. Well-oiled machine really does make you have a lot of really cool goal threats. Like obviously, turn one, it's great for getting a goal threat on a model that otherwise wouldn't be able to, but later on, the fact that you can like be in the side or middle of the pitch, steal a ball and be like, well, okay, cool. I have the ball. Maybe I pass it to a model. And then hope that I keep the ball for the next activation. You can do a lot of cool things of like, well, cool, I tackled the ball on the first attack. Now I'm going to pass it out. Oh, I got it. Cool, I dodged my model. I dodge my model, get the ball back, and then I can pass it even further. Or I can maybe I actually was able to dodge in for a goal, things like that. So the threat ranges of the team can be pretty fluid with passing, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, be very conscious of all your kick ranges and engineers because well-oiled machine can do some real silly things if you get it lined up. I mean, it's probably Christmas Treeland in some ways, isn't it? Really, if you manage to get the perfect sort of combination of models and passing it around the board and stuff. But yeah, so I mean, her powers, you can kind of buff her own team as well as buff herself. So I guess you can kind of change modes. As much as I mentioned Link quite a bit. I don't know how often she actually uses it. So controller, not linked, but that's what it basically is, isn't it?
Is what it does, yeah, exactly. Yes, I think they aren't probably not as used. I think deletion is probably used the most.
I think so, yeah.
It does help her and other guild models to kill things easier, which is good. Again, that 2-2 game plan. Controller is one of those abilities that just like, especially because you are spending influence on it, it is either really great, and does some crazy things, right? Or it is absolutely terrible and you lost yourself the game because you just had your models go 2 times in a row, and if they don't do anything super relevant that stops your opponent or scores a goal they weren't expecting to, then you've just created the situation where now your opponent gets to go, twice or gets last activation when they wouldn't have before. So you can, any linked ability has that, but this one you're also paying influence to set up. So
yeah, I think using it to get sort of a 6-point activation But using it just because it's like, well, actually, you're giving up a lot of stuff for that. Really, I guess also with Pinvice, she can get momentum quite easily. She can get mom dodge in one hit, which so her momentum generation is well. I guess Blister has momentum inspiration as an aura, but Pinvice can get it pretty handily. When would you take her rather than Ballista? I mean, I guess we're getting on to Rivet shortly about about who you're choosing your captains. But if you had the choice between Pinvice or Ballista for matchup, which would you choose for what matchups and why?
So I think you will probably find why the suggestion will be not to have the choice between Pinvice and Ballista.
I was aware of that. Yeah, that's why I asked it.
But yeah, it's depending on the game plan, right, that you want to do. If you want to really use the ball, be a little bit more aggressive on the goal side, and just in general have that more like dynamic goal scoring play style, that's what Pinvice does, right? Ballista is very much more control. He's going to score 2 goals and 2 takeouts because he's knocked models down, balls start scattering around, you pick them up, you more slowly get the goal, and you've also killed some models that have been chipped down, while Pinvice is more explosive, right? She's gonna do things like she walks into your model, she tackles, she passes to another model, and then well-oiled machines herself out so that she can then go pass to a second model and then controller it so that it gets to go and score a goal from like a bajillion miles away, right? So her play style is a lot more explosive, but I think fundamentally they both kind of do similar things. They both definitely, while you can definitely play either of them kicking, I think they both really like having the ball. So they kind of occupy similar places there compared to your third captain.
I mean, she seems so fun. Like she's so fast as well, and different. But she seems, obviously a great sort of flexible character. But yeah, I think obviously, I guess the elephant in the room is Rivet here. As captain, you're probably always going to take in your lineup somewhere. I imagine.
Rivet is a very, very strong and good captain.
Yeah. So let's explain to the audience why she's she distorts the whole team around her a little bit. Why she's very good.
Yeah. So multiple reasons, right? So Rivet's card, it has a momentous 2 and a push on 2, which is
amazing.
Yeah, the best. Yeah, the best for a captain. Obviously, Pinvice can get it with deleting herself, but having it is nice. Being able to make herself 2-inch melee is strong, but also make other models 2-inch melee, obviously very strong. Elbow grease, turning non-momentous playbook results into momentous ones is very good, and
insane, really.
I think people underestimate how much it changes up a model that is not intended at all to ever do damage. So I think one of the coolest things, like this was right around when Pinvice came out, I was watching someone, a very good Enginners player from the US here, play, and he was kicking off with velocity, and he put on elbow grease and the protect those close, and person was protecting against the ball, and then basically velocity went in and did 8 damage to a model or whatever it was that he wasn't expecting, setting it up for the kill next turn, right? So yeah, all that on the front of her card, all great. Her playbook is pretty good for an engineer. Obviously, engineers' playbooks aren't amazing, but she'll be able to start accessing those things. And then probably the biggest things are on the back of her card. Having +1 tack for your entire team is good. It's a good ability.
Pretty strong. It's pretty strong.
It turns out making everybody have having tack 1 above their playbook column.
Playbook.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Very strong, particularly on models like Colossus. With if you can kind of start seeing the picture coming together, right? He has a non-momentous 4 damage. That's pretty cool. That's a lot of damage for a squatty. Man, I wish it was easier to get and momentous. Well, now you have +1 tack, and you can make it momentous, and you have all the other stuff that engineers do, right? So your models can start hitting their playbooks, and actually, funny enough, I think one of the biggest things is it does make them very strong at counterattacks, which I think people forget. Like just the fact that your model can be crowded out and do its counter, and if it has a pretty good counterattack, they're like, oh boy, like I'm still worried about it, even though normally if your model's crowded out once or twice, it's impossible to hit those results. So
It's like, hey,
um,
do you want the 2-inch reach, tackle, double dodge, velocity? Yeah. Type 5?
exactly.
Sure. Why
Yeah.
not?
And then and then the thing we haven't even touched on, and which is what makes her such a great kicking model, also receiving, but like kicking, this is very unique, is toe, right? So the fact that she can drag a model, what effectively does, it's kind of weird as you learn it, and I think I still mess it up a bunch when I've played Rivet most recently, is that it is a directly towards advance of models that she moves within two of. So, like if you put, for example, the biggest one I think I've tried to do that messes up, it is very hard to successfully drag Colossus up and then get Colossus to actually have a lane to charge just based on all the geometry. You have to like go at a very extreme angle, right? Otherwise, he gets like blocked behind her base. But guess what? You have models in the guild that teleport from the
Yeah.
miners. You also have models that have ranged things that don't necessarily need to, charge. They can just walk around her. But it effectively allows you to have two or more threats downfield to turn one, which is very, very strong. And then obviously it's very good turn to turn, just to reposition your models, to get into threat range, to put a bunch of models on top of another model that you want to start beating up. Yeah, it's a very, very good ability.
She seems, well, very, very strong indeed. Yeah, I mean, just give all the kits she has, giving out 2-inch melee for everyone who's got like, one tackles and one hit, for example. That sort of stuff, and bonus tack, and yeah. So presumably you're going to take Kick with it in your lineup to kick with, and then I guess Ballista to receive with. I guess that's quite common, I assume, right?
Yeah, I think Rivet as a kicking model, kicking team is probably the most common thing that you'll see. And then you can play Rivet as receiving. You could also play one of the other captains receiving, quite well and I've seen a lot of people, go between any of those combinations and be successful. Yeah, I think Rivet is kind of like Rivet might be your standard captain that can be good in any situation, and then Ballista and Pinvice have certain cases like in which I think they're pretty good. For example, I actually think Ballista is quite good into Masons.
Oh God, it's horrible, the Masons. Yeah, grim, horrible.
He can definitely lose, but I think he has some, I think he actually has some really good things into Masons, for example. So yeah.
Well, it's hey, you've all got defense 3 and no range counterplay. It's wicked. He just stands there and shoots you for ages. It's horrible.
Well, yeah, and then he's bringing other models that basically make it so that your kicking model is probably not going to do anything. So you're relying on things like the missile model. If it's honor, if it's not honor, that's probably much worse. Yeah, like he's going to make your model not be able to score a goal, not be able to be knocked down, and yeah, real sad.
Yeah, as we said a while ago, I think it's probably reason to take Tower in your lineup, isn't it? Just to have against Ballista. Really?
100%. So I played into someone from the Discord. I think we've played 3 times now. 2 of them in tournaments, and one of them just a regular game. And I think it was Ballista every time, if I'm not misremembering. And at least 2 of those times, I brought Tower, which was really funny because I was back on Masons for a bit, and I was playing Tower like in 2 of the early games I was playing back with them, and I was like, I don't play Tower that often, but apparently I was. Yeah, very, very, very helpful for that. Having the sturdy is very good against Ballista.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was looking through his card the other day, and I forgot how wide his aura is. It's like a 4-inch aura, isn't it, for sturdy? Because huge, like such a large area he gives out as well.
Yeah, which, by the way, Rivet also has.
Yes, she has. Yeah. Why not? Well, otherwise she'll be powerful enough. So she has that.
That is true.
Much need to boost her power level to have that as well.
Well, real quick. Well, anyone who, any of your listeners who were not around for the third captain thing, Steamforge notoriously had perfect design on all of their third captains for the major guilds,
Yep.
and none of them ever were overpowered in any way.
I mean, I asked Steve Cole about how one of his tournaments went against a new player who's using veteran Captain Paul and how it went. Yeah, good times.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll go through the mascots briefly, and then we'll go through sort of key players and see where it takes us into. Say, not going to do a card read, then we'll do a card read anyway. So we'll do Mainspring, I guess. Again the OG sort of pressure killing mascot.
Yeah, right. Mainspring has the most kills. Yeah, he's the most violent of all mascots. Mainspring is an amazing mascot, and I think you'll see people pretty much default to Mainspring. Although, again, I've been watching some people playing Mother, and it reminded me that Mother is not far off. I think
the teleport thing is pretty strong, right? It's been toned down a little bit, but.
Yeah, it's been toned down. Mainly, I think she's been toned down a little bit. I have to remember. It's hard for me to remember. I know there was a point where she was 4-1. I'm 99% certain on that, and I forget what other changes were made, if any. But yeah. Anyway, so for Mainspring, the power is that this is the model that one can pass for free, which is amazing, and is very good at passing with his free ability to have a 4-8 kick. That's like his once per turn 4-8 kick. That is very good. And and then you combine it with the fact that he has Thief, which is actually a really good ability because it gets round close control. You could just stick one influence on Mainspring.
If I guess my sorry to interrupt you, Michael. I'm being birded as hard as this at the same time.
Very professional. Very professional.
Yeah. Also, it gets my counterattacks.
Yes. It gets around everything, right? If you have ideally a momentum and an influence, you have anywhere from a 55 to like 89, depending on what the model's defense is, chance to just pop the ball off of them. And then he gets to kick it 8 inches away for free. It's just a really fun play pattern. It's good. Mainspring. And then you add the fact that he explodes when he, on enemy models, when he gets taken out. So there's really no reason to ever do damage to him on purpose, at least not 7 damage to him on purpose or anything close to that. Yeah, it's a mascot you can kind of just throw wherever. At turn 1, maybe it gets the ball if you have the ball. If you don't have the ball, you kind of just move it up, and eventually it's going to either threaten the ball, threaten to like sprint and pick up a ball that's when on the ground in an awkward spot. It's a value mascot. He does cool things, and the idea of a mechanical bug that launches balls is kind of funny.
Yeah, 4-8 kick on a mascot's pretty daft. I mean, I don't know how many goals Mainspring causes for you, but I guess the theft of it alone can be quite strong, right?
So he can't use the 4-8 kick for a
goal
pass,
shot. Isn't it? It's pass. My mistake.
Yeah,
my mistake.
But it could still enable those goals, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
You could live the dream and try and bomb Mainspring with your own matchup model, make it explode, but that's probably Christmas Freeland again. Quite funny though.
It's definitely if somebody does make some attacks and incidentally does damage to Mainspring, or
they poison him, or set more fire, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. You can do things like he runs into that poison, he takes it, and then later on, he's dropping down 2 at a time, and maybe you have Ratchet out there and you throw an AOE on him while he's in there. Yeah, I don't think you should count on it as part of your game plan, but
it's quite funny though.
but it is quite absolutely, yeah.
So my experience with Enginners mainly is I think season older than this. So Mother was debuffed a little, was depowered a little bit because I remember Mother teleporting around and just taking the ball of people and doing horrible things. But I still think Mother's very strong still.
Yeah, I don't see her a lot, and I think the general consensus I've heard is definitely that she's not as strong, and I would agree with that. But I do, like, having played her against her recently, I saw the old Mother, right? So old Mother absolutely was probably the most. Yeah. Especially because as we get to a model maybe later, if we talk about him, her interaction with Hoist just being able to put out. So the old thing that you would do, like way back with Engineers, is you would kick with Hoist. You would have Mother. Mother would go up activation 1. She would run up next nearby Hoist, place a nest 4 inches away, in front of her, 4 inches away from him, and then he could threaten to teleport and charge, or teleport, walk, and pick up balls. And then you would also maybe use Ratchet to make him charge for free, and like you would stack up buffs, and that was very strong. But I think both with Hoist being less popular and her being less popular, that doesn't happen. Pretty, at least not frequently. But yeah, being able to pick up free balls is pretty good. The nest markers is interesting. I think they can be kind of fun if you're going to be scrumming a little bit to like later in a turn, you're fighting, but nobody's died yet. You start putting out the nest markers and making it harder for the opponent. But, it's a lot of positioning on that, because obviously if they want to sprint or charge and can just sprint or charge over one, then you kind of wasted your time. But yeah, she does some interesting stuff. I think it's just that Mainspring is so much like Value Town, and she is more like, I'm hoping that I get something really cool and unique from her abilities, right? Which are pretty unique and cool. So
I mean, making Hoist is an interesting one. So going to the Hoist now, Hoist basically has changed a fair bit again, but basically Hoist now effectively got a blank card. I mean, not quite, but Hoist basically now mirrors a sort of character play that your team's already got. So
yeah,
I mean, so are there many times where that's useful?
So I think actually, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe the only difference to Hoist from his old card is that he used to have, I think it was 2 less health, and he had Tough Hide. I might be missing something else that they changed.
Sure,
but I'm pretty sure that was most of the changes, is that he had Tough Hide, and we don't need to go into the math, but Sturdy, Reanimate, and Tough Hide on a 4/1 model, regardless of what his health value was very, 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 very tanky. So obviously, like, he lost quite a bit of that tankiness, probably about like the 2 health that I think is what he gained from that is not quite the same as Tough Hide. In fact, it's normally Tough Hide's about 3 health, 4 health on a model, but with his Reanimate, it was actually a lot more. So yeah, he lost a lot. But is True Replication still valuable? I think the answer is it can be. I think the challenge is that he is very much a model where you want to have multiple things that he can use and that are relevant for him to use on the pitch at any time, and then you need to benefit from the flexibility of being able to use multiple things, right? Because if not, why wouldn't you just take the models that do the thing, right? Just use those models. But I do think like having Spade, having Fuse, having those models, which he didn't have access to previously. Spade has some notoriously powerful character plays. Having access to that, like incidentally a second time, is kind of cool. So I think there's some space for him if you wanted to play him. He's definitely not a core model. I think just accurately getting the value out of True Replication can be difficult to do, because again, you need to use multiple different character plays, or need a character play that you need to use multiple times in order to get a lot of value, right? So the most common thing you'll see is like Salvo gets to knock down a model at range, and Hoist gets to knock down a model at range, and that is good, but it's not good. I don't think it's good enough, right? You need to also later in the game be doing something else really cool with Hoist in order to justify him being there. But if you can make that happen, absolutely. And he also very much loves Mother as a mascot. So.
I mean, yeah, if you're knocking models down, it's like cool, but actually, it's not going to win you the game, is it? I mean, it'd be fun, but yeah, influence on low momentum gain and everything else. So are there any sort of key must-take models or models you tend to gravitate to in Engineers?
Yeah, I think there are a couple ones. I think so. Salvo is a core model for Ballista. If you play Ballista without Salvo, why?
So why is that for the people
Yeah,
at home? What's he got?
yeah.
I mean, I agree with
Yeah,
you,
so
but yeah, but
so Ballista has, we didn't go over it specifically, but he has his momentous inspiration, which means that your character plays get free bonus times with it when you're within 4 of him, and also they generate momentum if they do damage. So Ballista wants a team in which there are other characters that use character plays that want to hit enemy models and that do damage. So what is the single best character play that engineers have for that? I mean, arguably it's the floor bolt from Salvo. Salvo also gets the benefit of his character plays do damage, so that helps him to dodge. So that can be, and generating the momentum is really important. So in a Ballista team, Salvo can do something silly, like if he starts within 4 of Ballista, he can, spend 2 influence, knock down a model with the ball scatters. He gets to see where it scatters. He gets a momentum from from the shot. He can then go and spend his heroic. He can walk if he needs to, or maybe he dodges into range, depending on where it lands. And then he can heroic to scoop up the ball with his tether ball, and he still has 1 influence left to pass the ball, or maybe shoot the ball if he had other momentum to do it with. So like, very powerful, right, for Ballista's game plan. I think Salvo is a good model in any of the captains, but more situational. But in Ballista, very core. So you will see Salvo a lot, especially if you're playing Ballista. If you're playing other captains, then depending, I think but he's never bad. He still does very good and unique things for the guild.
I mean, yeah, tetherball in a guild where you've got lots of knockdowns seems pretty good. I guess like that ball's loose. No, it's not cool. And then that's that.
Yep.
Really, it's horrible
Yep.
stuff.
So another model that is absolutely core is Spade. Spade is is one of the best strikers in the game. If you don't understand that, the answer is she has a tackle on 1, she has close control, and she has multiple ways of getting what we call non-linear movement, which is movement that does not have to, Guild Ball, unlike other games, models do block up space, and other things like obstructions and barriers block up space, and going around means you go shorter. So she has the thing of being able to go, I was going to say over, but it's actually going under and your team and popping up somewhere else. So along with all of the things that engineers do, so like in Pin Vice, you can make her faster, which is great. That she really likes being faster because she's not naturally fast besides her teleporting. In Rivet, you can drag her up. And if you drag her up 4 inches, that's effectively the same thing as if she kicked. So that's really cool. In Ballista, while she doesn't get as much movement stuff, she does have a character play, which we've really wished we could find a good way to adjust, because it is the last thing in the game, one of the last things in the game, character plays wise, that does something to an enemy model that doesn't have to target it. So her controlled explosion, being able to choose a model and push it, is very, very strong as well. So for a Ballista team, you might see more value out of being able to just push back models that you don't want coming into you, right? So yeah, Spade does everything. And she's 15 boxes, so she's more tough than the average than the average squatty, period.
So player before she gets nerfed. Is what I'm hearing here.
Listen, without a doubt, Spade has been discussed every errata, and ultimately the biggest challenge is figuring out a cool alternative for controlled explosion, which is probably the thing that most is. She is a strong model. I don't think the only thing that makes her quote unquote a broken model is that controlled explosion, because it is something that breaks a kind of core tenet or fundamental rule of the game, right? Which can be fine, but it can also be annoying, especially when she pushes a model off the pitch without any dice. which, you know,
Yeah, that
back
doesn't
in
sound okay.
yeah. But yeah, the issue has been not having a good alternative. Like, we've tried, we've thought about it. But yeah, she is a good model. Even if she gets adjusted, it wouldn't be a major thing. It would just be to make probably something more fair about that interaction. But she, despite that, Diggy Hole, Secret Tunnel, all of her movement, her tackle, the fact that in Rivet she's tack 5, so when she's charging, there's a non-zero chance she can even wrap to column 1 and get the tackle and like a push dodge. Yeah, she's a very good model. She is core in probably all of your engineers lineups. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Colossus.
Colossus, yeah. I mean, Colossus is, I mean, it's a great thing, isn't it? Really, especially with all the buffs you can get from other people now as well.
Yeah, I think Colossus is a model that should be played at least in most of the games. Maybe
Yeah.
there are definitely some reasons, and now, you know, Locust has gotten a little bit better, although I think maybe you play them together. But Colossus is very good. Being able to singled out, knock down models is very important. He's fast, you know, still has all the good kick stuff. Stoic. Yeah, he is not as tanky as I think people sometimes think. He 2-2, even with Tough Hide, he gets knocked down. You start getting a bunch of momentum and killing him. But he is
Yeah.
tanky enough. He's tanky enough to to either be a setup model for the rest of your team, or to be set up by your team and then do a lot of things, right? Particularly, we talked about Rivet already. If he gets set up, you give him that elbow grease, you've knocked down a model or two, he walks in, he's +1, +2 attack with gang ups, right? He starts rapping and hitting a lot of damage, singling out models, doing a ton of things, right? So he is very, very, very solid model.
Well, yeah. At the end of the day, it's 2-2, right? So when he gets knocked over, he's basically going to get killed. You're tough fight or not,
Yes.
really. But I mean, yeah, it's got a lot of kit, isn't he? Really, you know. I always forget he's got close control. I don't know why I forget that, but I always do, which can be really strong for him. And singled out, of course, tap buff, which you want to go for that 2-2 game, very strong indeed. Um,
Yeah.
it takes a big startling amount of space on the pitch. If you're used to dealing with models that have 50 more bases, it's a thing.
Yeah, and so one of the things that makes engineers, I think, a very good anti-scoring team is obviously all the close control that they have, the range ball
Yeah, yeah,
knockdowns and things like that are all good. And then they have a bunch of models with like that take up a lot of space on the board, or can take up a lot of space on the board. You have Compound, you have Locust, you have Colossus, and they can start doing things like just standing in the way. I think one of the funniest things this was a long time ago, but it comes to my mind. I played a game where I was playing Sharkfish versus Engineers, again a very good Engineers player, and I realized that he had prevented all of the turn 1 shenanigans I wanted to do simply by standing his models in a basically line at the right spot in the pitch, where it's like, oh, cool. I can't go past them. I like literally, it will take me like 4 inches to go around them. Yeah, which is a surprisingly good positional strategy, and engineers can do that, right? Because against teams that don't do a ton of damage, they are tanky enough where it's not like, oh, whoops, Colossus is out there, you can get to him. You know, in a lot of fish lineups, right? They don't want to kill Colossus. It's going to take them forever. Even Corsair doesn't want to kill Colossus. It will take him a long time to do so.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, 2-inch melee, 50 base, knocked down on 2 hits. You know, like his potting blows are not trivial. You got to deal with the guy. you got, you got to dodge out away of him or whatever. Knock him over.
Yeah. Colossus is absolutely a model you need to be able to not take the counterattack for, or you need to be able to just go around it, right? Like you plan around it. So if you go in with a striker, you make that first attack. You have to not take the tackle. If you either need to tackle and disengage, or not take the tackle, wait for him to knock you down and push you 1 inch, and then you have to be able to still be in melee. And then yeah. So he taxes you. He makes you think and do stuff, and can absolutely ruin your day if you don't.
So any more must takes?
I think some Veteran Harriet, I think, is a very close to must pick if you are receiving. You don't need to, but the advantage turn one of being able to make 2, 3, whatever number of passes, gain momentum while doing a couple of other things, I think is very, very strong. Like in pin vice, for example, I think it's mandatory because you might be, using that well-oiled machine and making a ton of passes. You want to get the momentum as you do it to kind of mimic order in the same way that they do that shenanigans turn one. So I think she's very powerful there. I think having a striker of some sort I won't say a specific one because I think they all have their things, but when I say striker in this case, I'm probably talking mostly, Salvo's one too, but we already talked about him. Original Velocity Nomad or Fuse, in addition to Spade, right? Having another striker is pretty helpful. And I think none of them are necessarily core every match, but I think you will play one of those types of models in most games. Is pretty strong. Like if there's terrain in the right spot, Nomad becomes a very, very strong model. Fuse is great if you think you need a lot of that nonlinear movement, and Velocity obviously is just a classic striker that close control, low tackle, buyable dodge, all good stuff there.
So talk with Nomad there. You said how useful it can be then.
Yeah, so Nomad, particularly in someone like Rivet, who can move him around, or I guess Pin Vice, right? If you pass and dodge and stuff like that. The fact that if he kicks off, or if he gets moved around and has a terrain piece within 4, or if there's a terrain piece in the location in which you want to land, right, for a goal threat, like they have the ball on a model and cover, and that model and cover is next to the piece of terrain, and you can walk or sprint Nomad to within 4 of that and teleport. Just again, that non-linear movement that is very strong. It allows him to get to places you don't expect him to go, and then you look at the rest of his card, and he's a good model that can do damage in the right situations, particularly under Rivet, right, where he gets that extra attack and hits that Momentous 2 better, where he gets the extra attack from his roulette, right, so then he's tack 7. He could get a lot of work done, but he can also be flexible. Again, they put the model in the wrong spot and his legendary is up, he takes the +1/+1 move, or he takes the +0/+2 kick or the tack, right? And whatever he needs to get the ball in that situation. He has a lot of good options, and then you add the unpredictable movement, and he can be given 2-inch melee. Which can make him very, very tanky is not the quite word, but difficult to engage with. He's got a lot going for him. He's a really good model that you can use in a good amount of circumstances. Really the only thing, actually, no, I said it and I was wrong. I was going to say he's a little less tanky, but actually he's a 5/0/13, so he continues the Engineers things of being 1 health above the average.
Yeah, well, the sort of 12 health you might expect for that sort of, isn't it, normally?
Yeah. He is a solid model. Spark, can be great in Ballista team, right? Some damage, momentum, and minus arm. He's again a toolbox, which maybe that was intended. If so, I'm gonna congratulate Jamie next time I talk to him that Engineers are a toolbox.
Any sort of tech pieces or support pieces you take sometimes? I guess the most obvious support one is probably Ratchet, but there are a few around who do sporty things.
Yeah, so of models we haven't talked about, so Ratchet is a support piece. I think Ratchet can be really good. He has good things on his card. I think obviously being able to remove conditions is great. Being able to give a free charger or sprint is great, and tooled up is great. Like all of those things. I think if you are playing a more fighty Engineers lineup, I think he brings a lot to the table for that. Obviously, his Blast Earth can be good for early turns, making it difficult for models to do what they want to do. Yeah, the only thing that's difficult about him is he kind of that suffers from the support model things of being 3-1. 17 boxes is good, but he does get he doesn't have a good counter. He's 1-inch melee. He gets beat up on, so he does not want to be the one who's getting attacked in your team. And him himself is kind of not especially again in Rivet, who makes everybody a superstar, can definitely do things, but he's not the model you typically want to be putting 4 on and then walking into a model and attacking with. So
I mean, I guess with Rivet, it's tack 6, mom 2-on-2, because all right.
Yes, yes. Rivet can make any model in the game good, and she could do the same for Ratchet. But the difference is Ratchet does that, and then he's sitting in the melee zone. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then Compound is another support model if you want, or did you want to?
No, go for it. Go for it. Yeah, absolutely.
Compound, I hate these types of models in general. I don't like playing with Rushkeeper. It's just not the way. It's a very reactive gameplay. I don't hate the mod. Like, I think he's a good model. He's well designed, and or other than the fact that Rushkeeper it's an ability that can feel bad, can be fine. It's best when it just taxes your opponent. But obviously, so the way obviously I would play is I don't think I would ever let somebody get Rushkeepered. I would if you move there, you're gonna get Rushkeepered. And then if
it's a puzzle solve, it's a puzzle solve rather than a gotcha, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and his book altogether is what he does is he makes it even harder for goal teams to score goals, and in some fighting matchups, if you're going to play very conservatively, he makes it harder for a fighting team to come into you. Like if you're playing that Ballista, if you want to play the old style of Ballista, models that shoot you, and Compound to kind of protect you from coming into the models. That is a gameplay style. It's too reactive and conservative for me, but it can work. It's certainly not bad, right? Certainly not bad. I like him as a tech piece for goal scoring teams, where it's less about his Rushkeeper, but more about having resilience and the horrific odor to make it, again, taxing, puzzling for teams to score.
I guess one question is, in your sort of the 4 slots you have for players, is there space for a support character, or do you want them to have more output? Obviously, if it's there, sitting there not doing much. I mean, do you have that space in your team for someone to sit around and not do much? Or are there enough hard workers is there enough hard workers in the many 3 players to do all the work you need to do? If that makes sense.
I think is particularly in Engineers, and particularly in the non-Rivet captains, especially. I don't know that there is. I think it could be a little bit of a trap because your captains can do a lot of work, but also can fail. So putting 6 on the captain and hoping the rest of your team does some things. You might find yourself in more situations where you do need all of your squaddies to be a threat to do something, right? I think where you have space for it is if you're okay, I need something that will help me into this specific type, super aggressive order fish where they're just going out and getting 3 goals, and I don't have other ways that I'm comfortable with in protecting the ball, right? Because obviously the best way to protect it is with distance, and it really doesn't matter what models you have on the pitch as much as just knowing where the ball needs to be at the right time. But it certainly helps, right, to have extra tech where it's cool, I don't need to be perfect in knowing that this ball needs to be 15 inches from here but 10 inches from here, right? You could be great, you know what, I could put the bump model on Compound and it's probably safe for a turn or 2, and then I can figure out what I need to do from there. I could put up horrific odor, I can make it more challenging. So I think having that tool, especially if you don't feel like you're able to solve whatever the problem is otherwise, is valuable. So it's kind of a personal preference thing, right? I don't play with Compound in Engineers, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't.
So I guess bad matchups, good matchups for Engineers?
Yeah, I want to talk about one more character though,
Oh, go
because
for
he's
it.
the one that we've changed. Locust. I have been seeing a lot of Locust, which I'm happy to
Well, you
see.
will now.
Yeah. um, and I think he's pretty good. I think he does some interesting stuff. I have watched. I mean, we kind of already knew this because this change is not new for his card, right? We've had it for a lot of the Guild Ball, but seeing more people playing and some really good players also playing or considering Locust. I think I have seen some good spots for him. I think engineers can play a game where they bring two big tanky boys in Colossus and Locust, a captain, a mascot, and then two strikers or two models that can score goals, right, or do damage, right? So Spade and somebody else as an example. And I think that lineup can do a lot of good work. Locust, being able to I mean, he is like literally tied for tankiest model in the game alongside Mule, but between all of his abilities, being able to kind of just sit in a spot and say, I'm going to be here. If you get any model nearby with the ball, I just knock it down, right? And like, or you get a model that you don't want in the scrum, I knock it down, and now I can move the scrum over to that model and start taking advantage of them. I think he does some really cool setup for the rest of the team, and he can do it. But the fact that he can do it out of melee is pretty cool. Like I played a game where the opponent was really going for, I'm going to knock down your models, scatter the ball, and I'm going to be able to interact with the ball from range, like through Locus or Salvo or etc. So that was, I think that's a viable play option for engineers is to, yeah, I'm just going to knock you down, ball's going to go somewhere, and then I'm better at dealing with those free balls than you are on average.
Absolutely.
So I think, yeah.
I think it strikes me as a model there where no matter what matchup you take him in, he's going to do some work. I don't think
I think what I've seen,
a bad choice, is he? I think.
Yeah, I think I have seen people replacing Colossus with him, which I don't know. I don't, even though they look very similar, and I've seen the body swaps that people have done. I don't think they do the same thing, so I don't think it is. I don't think it is replacing Colossus with Locust to do the same thing.
No.
But either you want what Locust does instead of what Colossus does, or you want both. But yeah, I think he definitely can contribute. So I think I think you should have Locust in your 12. That's my hot take. Not every game. He's still not like an amazing model, but I think he does some unique things. So.
At the end of the day, fast strikes, you just knock someone down from 6 inches away. Cool. One influence, well spent there. Really, point of momentum. Sure, why not?
Exactly. Yep. So you said good and bad matchups.
Go for it, yeah.
So I think engineers generally, like I said, they are a really good anti-scoring team. The fact that they can score quite well, they like to have the ball for passes and stuff like that. They have a lot of models with close control. They have relatively high armor and tankiness, right? So they don't. Teams that primarily score goals and like incidentally get kills are not going to be particularly, they're like the engineers models are tougher to get kills on. So I think they can play, like have a good tempo with those types of teams. So I think any of them, while they're not, I would have to think about it like individually if they're advantaged or not, but I definitely think they have some good things. Like I'm thinking navigators, for example, engineers versus navigators. Navigators basically, the only way, what they have to do is they have to get 2 takeouts off of models without tough hide, which you can put a bunch of models with tough hide because navigators cannot kill models with tough hide.
No,
just
not
like
at all.
like mathematically, it is incredibly difficult for them to do so, even if they have a bunch of buffs. And then so they have to kill your 2 models without tough hide, which can be challenging to do, right? That's less models to target. And then they have to find their way around a bunch of models with armor, which they can get rid of a little bit, and with close control, which they really don't like to see. So I think it's potentially a challenging fight for a team like Navigators, and I think that would go similarly for a lot of the primary scoring teams. I think matchups engineers don't want to see are teams that can kill them quickly enough where their resiliency doesn't match their difficulty in fighting. And then explain what that means is like, so if you can kill Colossus quick enough, him being tankier than the average model doesn't do enough, and you need time generally with engineers to be able to set up the fighting. So the only alternative the engineers get in that case is to maybe not do as much fighting, and do more of going after the ball, which they absolutely can do. However, they aren't the fastest team, right? Like they are not the, in terms of distance, quickest team to go after the ball. So they can, that can be a challenge, right? So I'm thinking that teams like Brewers that can knock them down easily and then start really spiking damage, it's gonna be a hard, and the engineers will not particularly super easily kill the Brewers in return, right? Because they have just enough they have enough tankiness that even though the engineers can knock them down and start getting a bunch of dice, it will take a while. I think that can be a challenge. And any matchup that's similar to that. I think Masons, if you maybe don't play Ballista, might be a little bit of a challenge, right? You have a team that's similarly tanky, but they can do damage more reliably than you, so you have to start pivoting towards the goal scoring, which is totally viable and good. But it's I think engineers are best when they can kind of sit in the middle and do whatever they feel like, right? Goal scoring, killing. But if they have to pivot towards one thing because the other thing isn't as good, they are not. They are not the best goal scoring team, and they are not the best fighting team, right? So they don't want to be on ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, like a Brewers team will just vaporize Colossus basically in about a round. Be absolutely horrendous, to be honest. How about like Butchers and those sorts of teams? They have fast and damage dealing, but aren't particularly tanky.
Yeah, I think that's an I haven't Butchers versus Engineers is not a matchup I have personally played in a while, so I can't speak to it. I think there is definitely with the models that are out now, like the new, the Vet Gutter and stuff like that. I think it can be very dangerous. Again, if you put Colossus out too far, absolutely will get killed and farmed for momentum, and the Butchers player will be very happy. I think the advantage you have it with Engineers there is if you can put the pressure on the Butchers player, force them to come in, but they don't hit hard enough because Butchers need to kind of hit you, win the fight, and then reset, and then kind of do that all over again, right? They don't want to be sitting there in a prolonged fight, and I think Engineers can maybe make it so you put, Shank comes in or Vet Gutter comes in and does a bunch of things, but then you're able to control her and kill her, and then they have to send the next model in, right? And then they might get some takeouts there, but you're also going to get your takeouts, and at the same time, you're also, scoring goals and doing stuff like that. So I think that one is probably, I'm sure somebody might be screaming, with a certain opinion about it, but I do think it can go either way. Engineers do have some decent counterattacks, which Butchers don't loved. So depending on the model and matchup, that could be a challenge for the Butchers. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that's an hour, so that's a lot really. So do you have any more pearls of wisdom before we sort of close it off? No pressure at all. It's fine. Yeah, if you haven't got anything, that's fine. But any sort of really crucial bits of information to pass on to the internet.
Yeah, well, so I have a question for you.
Oh God.
Which of the two mascots would you recommend people kick off with and lose the game?
Kick off with Mother. She can teleport, mate, and get the balls, score a goal. Do that.
That's true. That is true. She can teleport. Maybe get that non-momentous tackle on tack 3 and score a goal. I agree.
Exactly. That is the way to score and win first turn goal with Engineers. I think that's or you kick off the main spring and just force them to not do potting blows, and then if you do potting blows, you explode. That's a terrible idea. That's awful. Don't do that. That's the worst idea ever. Don't do that.
Just walk through their entire team. And do you want a parting blow? Do you want a parting blow?
Yeah, threaten thief. You go, I've got to do thief now, and then pass the ball back. Can't fail. That's the can't get strategy right there.
Yeah. This is why they pay you the big bucks, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure the checks. I'm sure the checks in the post.
No, but the ultimate wisdom, or the ultimate wisdom. Oh God, that sounded so terrible. The last bit of wisdom I would say is engineers, and most of the guilds in Guild Ball, but engineers do have pretty decent like set of like internal balance set of models. I think honestly, if the question is what should I play in engineers, I think the answer is you should play what you like, figure out what kind of play style you want to play, what models seem to work for you, and practice those, right? There are few wrong answers. Like, yes, you can have a team that doesn't work together, like a 6 models that you picked out that doesn't really work well together, but like in general, if you said, should X model be in my team? The answer is yes. The only one if I looking at the list, the only one we didn't talk about is Vet Velocity, who is probably maybe the least useful, but still does cool stuff model. But yeah, figure out models that you like, put them in your 12 and start practicing them. Because engineers, I don't think are a particularly easy team to play super well, but they can be played really well, and you can play basically what you want.
I mean, Vet Velocity, +1 tack for ganging up bonus. As you know, I think in a Rivet team, right, she can get some pretty silly. She can help contribute to some pretty silly attacks.
Yeah, I actually, that exactly. You hit it. I would play her in a Rivet team potentially. I think the challenge is just obviously you're not going to be able to play all the models on the engineers roster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there are more than 12. So you might decide that maybe I want to play the other Velocity, and am I going to really have two models that can't be on the pitch at the same time when there are so many other options? But yeah, no, if you like Vet Velocity, she has a cool sculpt. She's sitting right in front of me.
She's not bad, is she?
She's not bad. Honestly, if Route 1, not that this is a thing we're looking at or intending to change, but if she got the same change as Brisket, where she got a dodge on her Route 1, I think she would be that would like drastically change her character.
So you heard it here first. That's definitely going to happen the next errata. Thank you for that.
100%. It's but yeah, no. Engineers, cool team. They were, I think, they were my second team for Guild Ball. I went with Brewers. I played Esther's Brewers. I remember now. Esther's Brewers was the first tournament game of Guild Ball I played back in early season or whenever she came out, and then after that was Engineers for quite a while. So they're fun.
Esther's Brewers when she was throwing grenades around. That version of Esther's.
Oh yeah, the original. Yeah.
Quite a bit engineer-like, really. Thinking about it. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on, and I guess we'll say goodbye.
Goodbye.